The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everybody, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here, and very pleased to be welcoming for the first time to the show our city's new parks director. He's been on the job for I think about 6 months. We're going to find out for sure from him in just a moment. But he's Ray Maurer, and as I said, we're very pleased to have him. So welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Cheryl.
We appreciate it very much. Hope this will be the first of many appearances for you here on Eye on Oshkosh.
I look forward to it.
Well, good. You haven't been on before, as I said, and so, you know, we want to find out a little bit about your background. I know that when the hiring process was going on, you know, there was a meet and greet, I think, and so you probably met some citizens. Being on the job for 6 months, you've probably met a lot more, but for people who maybe don't know who you are or whatever, can you just kind of give us a little bit about your background and where you came from and so forth?
Sure. Prior to coming to Oshkosh, I was the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Director for the City of Oconomowoc, southeastern part of Wisconsin. We had a variety of recreational activities, boat launches, beaches, band shells, so we did some weekly concerts. And I was there for about the last 4 years, and then prior to that I was the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Director for the City of Cedarburg, and I was there for about 8 years. And I had under my jurisdiction, again, Parks, Rec, and Forestry, Senior Center, Youth Center. We had an outdoor aquatic facility. And so that gave me some good background for a lot of the things that we're doing here in Oshkosh. At both of those positions that I had, I was in charge of updating our park and open space plan, which is essentially our 5-year plan for the department. So that'll be one of my big tasks coming into this position as our park plan has expired. And so I'll be starting to work on that this year going into next year. And so we're looking forward to getting a roadmap, what I like to say, for the future in Oshkosh.
Sure, sure. Well, Cedarburg, that's what a quaint little community. I just love Cedarburg. Yeah. And, you know, so if you've done some work there, kudos to you. Yeah. Well, let's talk about, you know, how things have been going so far since you've been on the job. It has been, I think, 6 months.
Correct.
You know, what have been some of the challenges or the hurdles that you've kind of had to overcome? And maybe before you talk about that, Ray, maybe you could just tell us, you know, what attracted you to the position here in Oshkosh?
Sure.
What was it, some of the challenges?
Yeah, I think it was more the opportunities. Some people might look at them as challenges, but I see it as a great opportunity with the facilities that Oshkosh has. You know, there's not too many park systems in the state where a municipality has a golf course, a zoo, a facility such as the Leach Amphitheater. I looked at the Riverwalk as a great opportunity for the city, and as you are aware of, we're looking at that project that started actually this week at Riverside Park. So those were some of the big attractions for me, along with all the water. You know, you can't go anywhere in the city without being on the river or the lake almost, and there's so many opportunities from beaches to boating to fishing, and just working with the various community groups I think has been great. We do so much coordination, whether it's with the Oshkosh Youth Baseball, the Fast Pitch Club, Otter Street Fishing Club. There's so many groups out there that, you know, really want to work with the Parks Department and really keep our parks looking great with us. So as far as my time has gone, it's, again, meeting with a lot of people.
Sure.
Getting out to some of the Rotary clubs and the Kiwanis groups. I've been doing a lot of speaking there, and I've got some upcoming dates. And I really look forward to that because it's really a good connection for me. Working with Waterfest and everybody at the Chamber has been really great. And I just love to meet the people, and my family's just got moved up here within the last week, so we're in that transition right now, but just love the area. This was an area that I could see myself hopefully retiring in. It's, again, just a really unique opportunity that I saw.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've mentioned the Leach a couple of times, and of course, that's one of the newest crowns, if you will, that we have. And Waterfest is the big thing that I think draws a lot of people to the Leach. We're taping this on a Thursday night. Waterfest is going on even as we speak. Yep. And so maybe you can give us a little bit of a rundown of what has yet to come for Waterfest, and then we can talk about some of the other things going on at the Leach.
Sure. Next Wednesday, actually, on July 14th, there's going to be a special Wednesday evening show that Alice Cooper will be here. So it's Wednesday, July 14th, and I have not seen Alice Cooper in concert, but the people that I've talked to said he puts on just an awesome show, so I'm looking forward to that event, and also just to celebrate the 25th year with Waterfest. And then every Thursday from next Thursday, or actually this Thursday through September 2nd, are shows at the Leach. I know that later this month, 38 Special will be coming in on July 22nd or so, whatever that Thursday may be, and just a number of great shows. And I think I've attended every Thursday night so far, and I hope to be down there this evening once we're done taping.
You're going to leave right from here.
But we do have other events other than Waterfest, too. We've got, obviously earlier this year, we had Irish Fest down there, and the weather wasn't as cooperative, so we were hoping that they'll continue that event. I know this was the second year, and it takes a while to get it on its feet, but the weather just wasn't cooperative this year, but we're hoping that they'll continue that event. On July 17th, we have the JC's Brews and Blues that'll be held at the Leach. That's from 3 until 7 p.m. And then we have a few community events that we're looking to sponsor through the Parks Department. On August 15th, we have the Golden Dragon Acrobats of China will be back in. We've got some other events that'll be family orientated for, I believe we've got some different mascots from the area, some clowns, maybe some face painting, just a family type event that we're looking to offer. August 22nd, we have the Kids from Wisconsin returning, and that's another event that we're putting on down at the Leach through the Parks Department.
They're always a good act.
They are. They're very popular across Wisconsin, so we're happy to have them back. September 25th, we do have the UW Oshkosh Dragon Boat races again. Okay. So, we talked earlier about the Riverside Park and the Riverwalk. We're confident, or hoping we're confident, that the Riverwalk will be substantially completed the week prior to that. So it shouldn't interrupt much of the Dragon Boat races. It's all weather dependent, but right now we are looking forward to having the Dragon Boat races back down there. And then the other event that will be coming up is the hopefully first annual Oktoberfest on October 1st through the 3rd. So the Leach continues to be a great facility, a great venue for some of these community events, and it's really been really great for me to get out and meet these organizations that put on the shows. And,
sure.
If we can do more, I know earlier this year we had the community band was there on a Wednesday evening, I believe, and we had a couple hundred people down there. We'd like to expand some of those free or low-cost community events as well to really get more shows down there as well.
Sure. And, speaking of the Leach and being used by the community, whether it's for community events or for private events, it is available for private gatherings, if you will. We don't want to dwell a whole lot on that because that's all on the city's website, which we're going to be putting up throughout the segment here. But, can you just talk a little bit, Ray, about what is involved in cost-wise and procedural-wise to rent the Leach for a particular event?
Yeah, as you said, the information is on the city website, but we do have a separate website for the Leach as well.
Okay.
It's www.leachamphitheater.com. Okay. And you can go on there and have all the information as far as events that are scheduled, and that includes both public and private. We do have a number of weddings that have scheduled for down at the Leach. We do have, what we're trying to do is encourage more corporate gatherings and corporate picnics, so we're going to try to do some marketing towards some of the businesses in the area. And it all depends if it's a for-profit event, if it's a non-for-profit event, if it's open to the public. So the prices really range based on the type of event that you're looking to have down there. But all that information is available on the Leach website. And if you want to give Trish a call in our Parks Department, our number is 236-5 5080, and Trish or I'd be glad to help you on walking you through the process. It's a fairly simple process, just like any other park rental, but we do have a little bit longer form for the leach because there are some certain things we want to make sure that the organization that is organizing the event is aware of, such as if you're having alcohol at the event, we do require some type of security, so we help to get you in touch with some of the local security agencies and work with all the details between our staff and the police department mainly. Will help you walk you through the event to make sure it's a safe and a fun event.
It sounds complicated, but it's probably not as cumbersome and complicated as it may seem at first blush.
Yeah, it's really not. You stop in our office, pay the fee if it's for a say a wedding or an anniversary or a corporate picnic. It's simply paying the fee, filling out the form, and signing off. It's pretty quick. If it's a larger event where you're going to have a couple hundred to a couple thousand people, then we do want to sit down with that organizing group just to make sure that we're all covered and we have the correct security and all the measures in place to make sure it's a fun event.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's talk about the the river walk. We've touched on that a little bit as we're taping this on July 8th. You said it just started getting underway this week. Let's talk a little bit about. I mean, it's been in the news a lot. I'm sure most people probably have some sense of what it is and where it's going to go, how it's going to look, and that kind of thing. But in case there's someone new to the community, or in case someone has missed it, maybe you can just kind of recap for them. Sure. What it's going to look like.
Well, this is the, I would say, the first phase, probably the second phase. The first phase was done a couple of years ago behind the leach, actually along the river. But this next segment is through Riverside Park, essentially going from the leach west to the Main Street Bridge. What we're going to be doing is, as we talked, I think, earlier this week, they started moving a lot of the earth. You're going to see the old asphalt path that was down there is going to be replaced with a concrete path. Along there is going to be some nautical type lighting similar to what is currently at the leach to match what's at the leach. We'll have some benches and trash receptacles along there. Along the water's edge of the Riverwalk, there are going to be some lighted bollards. So it's a visual cue for people to say, you're getting closer to the water. We had discussed possibly putting a railing up. But as the park board and the council discussed and took a look at that, one, it became a costly amenity to add. But two, we started talking about a lot of the fishing that takes place down there, and does that inhibit some of the recreational value that takes place at the Riverwalk? If we find out that we want to add it in the future, we're going to space the bollards that are going down there at an adequate space so we can always add the railing if we find out we want to. But we feel with the lighted bollards, people will have that visual cue, sort of like they do right now when they had their old wooden post basically that they tie a boat up to. It'll be the same, but it'll be a little bit safer because we've got lighted bollards. So it's really going to be, I think, really pleasing to the eye. On the back side of the walkway is going to be essentially a curb, so it's going to make it easier for us cleaning in the winter. If we're going to clear the snow off, we'll be able to run our brooming equipment or our plows right along the edge of the curb, so we're not tearing up the turf area and having to come back in spring and do some repairs on that. Right. And again, this is one of the sections we're working on. We're also working with the Community Development Department and the Planning Department on another section which is on the west side of Main Street along the Marion Road section. Okay. We are currently working on finalizing those plans, and I believe that will be going out for bid within the next couple weeks. And I believe that project is going to be starting later this summer and early into the fall as well. So we're looking at a couple different sections getting done this year, primarily the Riverside Park one, but also starting on the next section going to the west. Sure. And obviously we've got a large plan to keep connecting along the river, connecting it to the Wyowash Trail, and also going on to the south side of the river. And it's a great thing to take a look at the plans, and you can see those plans on the city's website if you go to the Planning Community Development Department. Okay. I think they have conceptual plans on there. But it's really pleasing compared to some of the areas that are down there now. Okay, good. What's the cost so far of what has been spent for the Riverwalk? The bids that we had come in for the Riverside Park section we're just under $900,000, I believe. And that was just over $300,000 under what we had budgeted, so we're feeling good about that.
Sure.
There are some unknown costs in there. We've got some various costs that we need to keep an eye on as far as landfill, tipping fees, depending how much soil we need to take out. There are some other issues we had to work around with a major water main that comes through the Riverside Park area. So there's some special precautions we need to make sure that we take so we don't rupture that water main, obviously.
Yeah,
so
sure.
the biggest cost is there's a new seawall that's going to be installed. So all the way along the Riverwalk, there's going to be a new seawall which will tie up to the river or the seawall behind the Leach Amphitheater. So right around $900,000. We do obviously have some other design fees that we've paid to a local consulting firm, and we'll see those because they're going to help us manage the construction project throughout as well.
Okay, all right, good. The Pollock Water Park. I know that that's always, especially on these very hot, muggy days, that is a popular attraction. What's happening down there? Any special events going on over there?
We do. We actually had one special event already earlier this year. Back in June, we had a Welcome Back to Summer Bash where we had some kids games and I believe some special concession pricing. We do have a couple events coming up again, and one is actually next Friday, I believe, on July 16th.
Okay.
We're going to have a winter water bash, kind of a Christmas in July. We're going to have some holiday theme items for the holiday. We're going to have some special concession pricing, and I think we're going to have a special visit from Santa as well. So another special event that we want to try to attract some of the season pass holders, but also just the general public to come down and enjoy the pool. The next event that we're looking at having is on Friday, July 30th from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. And that's we're calling it an H2O and show. Essentially, we're going to have an outdoor movie at the pool where we're going to have you a large screen that we're going to be projecting, and you'll be able to float in the pool, sit on the deck, or whatever you'd like. We're going to have some special prices on concessions again, but just another special event to draw more people into the pool as well.
All right.
And then Saturday, August 21st from 5 until 8 p.m., we're going to have a special season pass holder appreciation night. We really appreciate the people that do buy their season passes, and those are mainly citizens, so we'd like to show them our appreciation. So we're going to have a little cookout, some prizes, and again, just some special pricing on some concessions as well. So we're trying to do a few more special events, and so 4 of them this year I think was a good start, and we'll look at continuing that in the future.
All right, good. Well, I know one very unfortunate thing that happened, was a recent, and I really was stunned when I saw the headline in the paper, and I think you probably know where I'm going with this because, it said that a child drowned there, and in fact it was a near drowning. Fortunately for the child and their family, it was not an actual drowning. City staff and the paramedics, first responders, they were Johnny on the spot. They did what they needed to do, and they turned that event around. How do you handle a situation like that? I know you stayed closed the rest of the day, not necessarily just for that reason, but because there was some threatening weather coming too.
Correct.
But how do you make a determination as to whether or not you're going to reopen or you're going to remain closed after a situation like that?
Sure.
And did you contact the Northwestern about their grabbing headline?
I'd like to just make it a little clear for you and everybody watching that the city has an arrangement with the Recreation Department through the school district. The Recreation Department actually provides the lifeguarding staff and their supervisors, as well as the water safety or the swim lesson instructors. So it was actually staff members from the Recreation Department, the lifeguards, that did an awesome job.
Okay.
Our managers, as well as the Recreation Department managers, all stepped in, followed our emergency action plan, contacted paramedics, and the child was transported to the local hospital, and from my understanding was released within a few hours and is doing just fine. But talking with our fire department and EMS, they all said our staff and the Recreation Department staff handled it the best that they're trained to do. Fortunately for us, we do have video camera at the pool, one for security, but also for events such as this. So immediately after the incident, the fire department and our staff were able to take a look at the video, maybe see what happened, but also see how the guards and the staff reacted. And obviously it's a traumatic experience for a lot of our lifeguard staff, are 16, 18, 19-year-old young adults. So it's traumatic for anybody, but more for a younger adult. And so we had some individuals, some of the staff, the lifeguards, that obviously were very shook up. And the fire department, my understanding, did a great job going through the video, saying, you did this right, you did this right, and there wasn't much more you could do. You followed everything that you should be doing. Sure. So it was good to, the communication between all of the staff members at the pool as well as the EMS. But how we dealt with it then was, obviously because of the severity of the incident, we need to clear the facility, make sure that we can get all the first aid and all the paramedic into there without having another injury or getting somebody into the way of a vehicle. And also, after the event, when the victim is transported, we need to deal with a debriefing for the staff, not only the lifeguards that were involved, but for the managers, for all of our staff that were on board, because they all play a part in that rescue.
Sure.
So we have to, the fire department again does a great job debriefing with our staff and addressing any questions and some of the emotions they're feeling, because these are the guys that deal with that on a daily basis. So we really appreciated what the fire department and their staff did for us. And again, fortunately, the child was fine and released within a couple of hours, is our understanding.
Yeah.
As far as the headline, we weren't real pleased with the way the headline was written. I know the recreation department staff was not very pleased. And we did make our concerns known to the Northwestern, and it was, I think, an error on their part to state or not state a near drowning, because I did notice on the website a lot of the comments from the citizens was that it should have been stated near drowning, and I think more for us, we had staff members and lifeguards that weren't on staff, and if they see that, obviously they start questioning if they didn't hear about the event if they weren't on. So it's, again, just part of dealing with the whole incident. So.
Okay. All right. Couple of other serious type things. Dogs in parks. It's not necessarily a serious issue, but it is one of controversy here in the city. A lot of the community wants dogs in parks. A lot of the community doesn't. It seems like there was a little bit of movement made and then kind of came to a standstill. Where are things at with that right now, Ray?
I would say since I've been here for the 6 months, I haven't heard much about the dog issue. I know it's out there. I know there are certain groups that, as you said, are in favor and certain other ones that are not. What I plan to do is hopefully address that as we're going through the Park and Open Space Plan. I can see both sides of the issue. And I think it needs to be part of a master plan for a park system. And whether it's a facility in the park, if there's certain ways we can work with the ordinance and allow dogs in certain parks, whether it's leashed or whatever it may be, maybe on trails. I think what we need to do is work through that process through our entire master planning. And whether that's, again, including a dog park somewhere that's in a future development, or we need to get more feedback, I think. And right now, I haven't been contacted to take on that task too heavily right now. So I'm waiting until we get more in the process.
Okay. So it's not something that you're absolutely flat out opposed to. You're willing to kind of, see how it fits in with everything and work it out if it can be worked out.
What we'll do is we'll be discussing at the Parks Board all the way through the planning process. And then eventually through the Common Council and the Plan Commission as well. So there'll be a number of groups, a number of public input meetings where people will be able to weigh in on a situation.
Okay, all right. And then the spraying of weeds, the chemical spraying for weed control in Millers Bay, that was recently done. That's a very controversial issue with a lot of people who really are opposed to the chemicals. They're concerned about the environment. They're concerned about the health risks that may be involved in that. Other communities are using, these, I don't know what they're called exactly. They kind of eat, I guess, some of the well, I don't know. You would know better than
The
I.
weed harvesters.
There you go, harvesters.
Yes.
I was thinking eating, but I guess that's kind of what they do. I don't know. So how do you make the determination as to either using the chemical spray or the harvesters?
We're currently working with a plan that we've been drafting with a consultant, Onterra, which is out of the Fox Valley area, and they work on aquatic and marine plans in coordination with the DNR. They've done a number of plans for different communities. So we've been working with them for the last, well, since I started, so about the last 6 months. And through that process, we're taking a look at the various options, from treating it chemically to contracting out for weed harvesting, and also looking at the city possibly purchasing a weed harvester and then operating that in-house. We understand the controversy and the delicate nature of putting chemicals into the water. People need to understand that we do have to have a DNR permit to do this. All the chemicals have gone through significant testing, and the DNR obviously would not permit us to put chemicals in the water if it were going to harm the water environment, the fish, whatever it may be. So it's well overseen by the DNR. And through this plan, what we're looking to do is try to come to a compromise of probably lessening any chemical treatment that we might have to do, but we also know that it's a tool that we might have to use in the future as well in certain areas. As you're aware, we have the sailboat mooring plugs out at Millers Bay. Even if we had a weed harvester come in, those mooring plugs, it's difficult to maneuver around, so that may be an area where we may need to do some chemical treatment as well. The other things associated with a weed harvester, in the plan, we've taken a look at cost to purchase one. And I know that through the local media, again, there's questions about, there's a number thrown out about $115,000 to $120,000 for a weed harvester. And what we've looked at is what we would say middle of the road type piece of equipment. But that's just not the weed harvester. Once you harvest those weeds, you need to have an elevator system to unload the weeds into a dump truck. So the dump truck then would be operated by another staff member taking the weeds off-site to wherever we find that we can dispose of the weeds. So there's at least 2 staff members that are primarily involved, and there's also, just not the purchase of a weed cutter. There's been talk and some question about why don't you look at a used weed cutter, and there's some on the market or on eBay or whatever it might be for $35,000. And what we'd look at it is if we're getting into the weed cutting business, and that'll be a decision that's going to have to be made by the park board and the common council, because there are some significant consequences on our budgets. If we're going to do that, we need to purchase a piece of equipment that we know is going to withstand time. It's just like a snowplow. We aren't going to go out and purchase a used snowplow because they do get beat up. So we can't rely on just purchasing a used piece of equipment. So it's again a sensitive issue. What we're trying to do through our department and through the plan is to lay out the information the best that we can. Okay. And then the Parks Board will actually be discussing that plan at its next meeting on next Monday, and possibly forwarding a recommendation to the council. But there's different options for the weed cutting, and the weed cutting isn't always the answer, because there are you get into, it's just like mowing your lawn. It's a constant process, and it's going to be affect our budget. We're estimating anywhere probably from $30,000 to $50,000 potentially an annual budget to do the weed cutting. Okay. And that's in addition to the capital cost to purchase the equipment. So. Okay.
And then just real quickly, if you can kind of recap, Sawdust Days just ended. How did it go this year?
Actually, we had a staff meeting today with our management staff, and from what I understand, it was probably one of the smoother run Sawdust Days. I don't know, I haven't talked to the police department on how many issues or how it went for them, but I think as far as our department's concerned, I thought it went very well. I was amazed for my first Sawdust Days. I was down there a couple evenings to see the number of people down there. The fireworks show that was sponsored by Festival Foods, I think, was an excellent show. Did see in the paper again that concern about people bringing in trash and leaving it behind, and we hope that they'll be more responsible in the future, and we understand that's going to happen occasionally, but you know, we see that as well. We hope that whatever people bring in, they're going to take out. But I was pleased with how things went, and it's another group that our staff works with closely on a couple weeks beforehand, making sure everything's set up correctly, and then as well on the takedown side. So
sure. Well, I missed the whole doggone thing. I'm getting over bronchitis here, and so I missed the entire holiday weekend. So, but it sounds like it was a good event. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much.
I look forward to
like
it.
I said at the intro, I'm looking forward to having you come back again.
I will too.
All right, excellent. Just sit tight. We're going to take a real short break, and we'll be right back.
Dear Mom and Dad, well, I finally have some time off, so I'm writing to tell you that I'm doing well. We have good days and bad days over here. We try to remember the good ones and get through the bad ones. Mostly we have each other, and that's what keeps us going. And Mom, since you asked, if anyone wants to help, just tell them to contact the USO. You can't believe how much they do for us. With love, your son, Michael.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. The Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
We were in an emergency situation. We don't have extra. We have a little bit of water and a little bit of food. A meeting place, no.
No.
I don't think we have a first aid kit.
We have tuna fish, we have beans, we have canned tomatoes,
True.
you know.
That's true, but that's really not survival food. Tomato paste.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. Very happy to be joined again by sort of a semi-frequent guest. Justin Mitchell is here. Justin is one of the regular bloggers on now refresh my memory here, is it Main Street Oshkosh?
Yep, www.mainstreetoshkosh.com.
And you're here tonight to talk about a lot of different things that are going on from an environmental standpoint and that kind of thing, and green initiatives. We want to talk about, because we just finished, as you know, talking with the Parks Director, the harvesting and the chemical spraying of the weeds in Millers Bay. And I know that has been a really very it's a controversial issue, but it's an issue very close to your heart. And you are very opposed to the chemical spraying.
Sure.
So maybe you can just talk a little bit about why you're opposed to the chemical spraying. I mean, you probably heard, and if you didn't, I'll just tell you, the Parks Director says they need permitting from the DNR to do this, and the DNR wouldn't approve the permits if it was something that was going to make the water quality unsafe for plants or not weeds, of course, but for other plant life and sea life and human life.
To clarify on the DNR's role, it's not necessarily to say what's the most environmentally conscious decision. It's their role is enforcement of state laws, and so what they do is they say, well, here are the legal processes that you can take for treating your issue. So because the DNR says go ahead and do it, doesn't mean that no question about it. It's the safest, most sustainable, kind of most intelligent way that you can treat a problem. You often hear the idea of it's a lawn, and so if you do a harvester, you have to continually mow it. And I think if you take that analogy a little bit further, if you envision your lawn and you have a pretty nice lawn and you have a couple tall weeds, and so your treatment of it would be to spray your entire lawn and kill all of the grass and all of the weeds and just have kind of a barren dirt land. Now that's not what we want for our lake. That doesn't support the small animal life, the aquatic life that fish feed on. It doesn't promote water quality. It doesn't help the water clarity or anything like that. And so what we're trying to pursue is more of a sustainable, comprehensive approach. You have an issue of weeds. Well, let's more sustainably manage those weeds by cutting them. When you have a problem, when you treat with chemicals, you have to do it right away at the beginning of spring. That way it's most effective and you use less chemicals, it's less cost. There's less cost in it. You don't have to use as much. But you don't know if you're going to need it that year. Last year there was no treatment and there was no need for chemicals at all. The treatment last year, had they done it, would have been a waste of $20,000, $25,000. Another issue about the harvesting of the weeds is it's kind of a misinformation. If you say it enough, people just start repeating it. The idea that we have to trim every 7 to 10 days continuously throughout the summer is just not accurate. As last year indicated, there was no trimming at all and there was no weeds. Further, when they did contract out several years back, the report that they provided indicated that they could have trimmed 2 to 3 times deeper. So if it grew back in 10 days, 2 to 3 times deeper would be every 30 days for that period. Now, of course, there's a large area. You can't do the whole area in one day, but it's just really not necessarily accurate when they're suggesting that you would have to continually remow the area every seven days, to the point that there are areas where a harvester couldn't get. Absolutely, and I think one of the positives of the Parks Department and the Parks Board is that they brought in on Terra, and that was required as part of the DNR process, is that they have a plan for what they're doing. They're not just blindly spraying chemicals every year. And that plan, it's pursuing or getting near its end of the draft phase. It's been redeveloped, and they just put together a new draft that I think the Parks Department is pretty happy with. It does call for a more sustainable approach to the management of the Bay Area, including harvesting. And they cite a couple things. One, harvesting will further enhance the fishery there. One of the things that they can do is they can mow basically lanes where the larger fish can come in. Further, you don't want to necessarily remove all of these weeds and leave them sit there because they decay. When they decay, they absorb oxygen, so it kills the microorganisms there. It has an impact on the fish. But worse is that all of that nutrient is a breeding ground for the algae, which is really a serious problem in our area. You've heard of the blue-green algae issues and whatnot. I just was talking to some folks from Fond du Lac yesterday, and there's a growing sediment in the shoreland area there against the chemical treatment, because what's happening is these areas are being wiped out of all of their plant life. The nutrients are left in the water to decay, and what's happening is they're having these huge algae blooms there that would not be as, say, promoted had you had the native plant life that would have been there anyways. But I mean, I don't think anybody is going to say we don't want boaters there. Clearly, it's a highly valuable recreational area. But what we want is smart planning and management of the area.
Sure. So. You know, is this just a problem that is unique to this particular park and specifically Miller's Bay? And the reason that I ask that is that I've noticed in the last, maybe a couple of years or so, in Lake Butamore, there seem to be a lot more things growing there that I've not noticed there in years past. And I'm not a botanist. I'm not, I don't spend a lot of time on the water. I don't know what these things are that are growing, but I'm sure if you travel up and down Highway 41, you've seen them. You know what I'm probably talking about. Is that a similar problem to what's going on in Miller's Bay, or are they two totally different things?
Sure. A couple things. Aquatic plants are obviously always there. They're always going to be there, and they're not a bad thing necessarily. Nor is algae. There's a 30 to 50% I read of algae has a potential negative impact on humans. There are beneficial algae as well. But the issue is statewide, right? You have the DNR providing information on algae and how to prevent algae blooms. You have the state passing legislation to limit or ban the use of phosphates in your fertilizer, and that's to inhibit that algae bloom, that excessive plant growth. There's a lot of regulations on farmers to ensure that they don't have farm runoff into the water system. All of that fertilizer just goes in and fertilizes these massive plant blooms. And that's one of the things also that the Sustainability Board in the city, among others, are pushing for, and this was in the Ontario study for the Millers Bay Management as well, is to create a shoreline buffer of native vegetation to prevent that type of runoff, so that when it rains and you have all sorts of people's yards with their fertilizer washing off, you provide a buffer so that area absorbs some of those nutrients, and so it doesn't basically pollute the lake so much and cause those large blooms. You're going to see everywhere you go. I was driving back from Door County several weeks ago, and that's a large bay that goes through goes through Sturgeon Bay, and they had their 2 harvesters chugging along. You have little lakes groups around the area. They use harvesters. It's not something that we would be unique if we were doing it by any means. But the shoreline restoration is something that was, like I said, indicated in the Ontario plan, and that's something that we're trying to work with Ray and the Parks Department very closely. There are grants available. The Winnebago County Land and Water Conservation Department has funding available for shoreline restoration. Even Wild Ones, which hosts their annual conference here, has funding available. What a great opportunity for the schools there, Webster Stanley and Emmeline Cook, if we just select Millers Bay area, to learn about water protection and native vegetation and kind of the way it is naturally. And I mean, that's not the only shoreline, right? If that's what we were targeting right away, because you have the Ontario study that supports that. But there are a lot of shoreline areas in the city. The university along the river there is doing the same. They're looking to restore that area with Mike Lazat leading that effort. So.
Okay. How did you get so involved in this and so interested in this? I mean, I know that you're a sustainability green initiative guy. Is that what drove you to this, or is there something else that is sort of tugging at your heartstrings with this particular issue?
I don't know if it's necessarily this particular issue. I think water quality is important. For me personally, you know, when I came to school here at UW Oshkosh quite a few years ago, I started to get involved in efforts there. We did a university audit, and we held a lot of different events, and we planted trees, you know, the type of thing that a normal college student that's interested in that would do. And I guess my interest has kind of blossomed, and started to get involved in different city matters, and that kind of led to the Sustainability Board. And I mean, I had been doing stuff before that, but I'm not unique, right? There are a lot of people here that care very much so about the water, about the environment and whatnot. One of the interesting things that I found when I was doing some research is that back in 2003, the Oshkosh Community Foundation put together a workshop day in response to serious concerns about our water quality. And people from the Planning Department, the Public Works Department, Parks Department, County, total they said 36 different groups from the community got together to discuss water quality and concerns to protect what arguably is Oshkosh's most valuable resource. And it's interesting what they had as some of their goals. Water quality is always suitable for swimming. This is their Vision 2013. So you can gauge how you feel where we're at with that. Water clarity and quality are improved. Water management now addresses ecological in addition to recreational and economic issues. Shorelines are restored and naturalized, and water quality is incorporated to all elements of the comprehensive plan. I think some of those have been achieved, and one of the main things that came out of that is the creation of the Winnebago Lakes Council. But I think there are a lot of those areas where a lot of progress could be made, and that's another area where the city was saying, and the members of that group were saying, these are things that we should strive for. It's not just me coming and saying, well, let's get a nice shoreline. You know, it's, there's a lot of people that are saying that in our community. So.
Sure. You mentioned, you know, beach water testing, for example.
Sure.
We've been dealing with some really muggy, hot, nasty days, and before I got so sick, I was even noticing a lot of people down at the beach in Menominee Park. And that was one of the areas that you had really kind of been pushing to have the water tested. It was one of a few. You know, has the water been tested recently? You know, is it safe?
Sure. I'd like to commend Mark Roloff and Ray Maurer for their work on that. I think they've really taken that area and moved forward and kind of done whatever we've asked and whatever has made sense regarding the project. And they're getting great help from Greg Kleinheinz, who was a previous guest of yours,
yes.
From the university. They're doing wonderful testing and lab work at little or no cost. But you know, I've heard people say, I'll never swim there because I go there and I get sick and this and that. And clearly not everybody feels that way, because I've gone a couple times during the hot days and counted well over 100 people there. And it's definitely a valuable resource for the community. And what's interesting is now they have a sign that notifies beach users that their water is being tested. It's a State Department of Health sign. The results are available online, easily accessible from the Parks Department website. And which, by the way, the university or the city website now that they put together is fabulous. If people haven't gone to it,
it is a wonderful site.
Them to go there. And the main thing, I guess, is that the water at Menominee Park Beach has been wonderful this year. It has not approached anywhere near the EPA level for an advisory warning. And in general, Winnebago County water sites have been good. There's only been one site, and it's not on the Lake Winnebago that has been repeatedly above EPA levels. And what are they testing for? They're testing for E. coli, generally an indicator that there's some maybe level of feces, maybe you know, from birds or from humans or something like that. And it's an indicator of the possible presence of other viruses or bacteria and whatnot. And that has raised no concerns whatsoever. One of the other positive steps that the city has taken is that if it ends up being, if it ends up exceeding safe levels as determined by the EPA, they'll close the beach, or they'll have a sign that indicates that this beach has concerns for levels of E. coli. Swimming is not advised, or something like that, and that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know exactly what the result or what their steps are going to be, but they did indicate that they would respond if there are levels. So I think that's a great step forward for the health and safety of beach users. So.
Well, it is, and you know what a difference. I'm trying to think. It was probably about 2 or 3 years ago when you and Greg from UWO were on. I don't think it's longer than that. And what a difference, you know, that length of time has made in getting things accomplished, because it was sort of an uphill battle to even get the testing done at one point. And you came on the show. I hope we gave you some exposure to help move that forward. But you and Greg and some others were, you know, just vigilant in continuing to, you know, hammer home the point to the city and the county that these things needed to be done. And so many thanks to all of you for your efforts with that. But, you know, it's nice to see that governmental bodies are finally taking they're listening to what citizens have to say. They're taking advantage of the university that we have in our own backyard and using some of the resources that it has to offer. And they're utilizing citizen advocates like yourself you know, to help get things done.
Well, in UW-Oshkosh, they do testing at hundreds of beaches in the state. To not take advantage of that resource would be relatively silly. And they're doing it for little or no cost, which is remarkably, you know, lower in expense than what all of these other beaches are doing. Granted, if you're a Lake Michigan beach, you're required to test. But there is a great number of inland beaches that are testing as well, and you can get that data if you're going to you're taking a vacation and you want to get the data of where you're going. Are the water safe? You can get that data on Wisconsin beaches. I don't know if it's www.wisconsinbeaches.org or something. It's put out by the Department of Health and the DNR. So
you can probably just do a Google search and it'll come up. A couple other things. We've got about 10 minutes left, and want to talk about some other things. You had mentioned that you wanted to talk about community garden site expansion. So tell us what's happening with that.
Right. Community garden. We currently have one out by the Mental Health Institute. For the last couple of years, and it's been full. Every year it's full. Last year they had about 16 people wishing to have garden plots that were put on the waiting list, not offered a site. There's no certainty that that site is going to be continually used, particularly because I understand it's DNR land and they're looking to return it to a native prairie area. Now we hope to work against that and hopefully maintain it as a community garden site, but recognizing that there's an interest, a need, and the benefits of it, the city did, particularly with the work of Bill Sturm in the Parks Department, identified a site at the cemetery, Riverside Cemetery, just north of town, and so they had about 24 plots this year there as well, and about 20 of them were taken. Which is wonderful. I believe some of the last ones were taken then by kind of volunteers to grow food for the pantries. So a near full capacity at that site. I understand that community planner Darren Birch is a big proponent of community gardens. It's something that he values as a regular part of a community development, and that's a real positive to have of that ally. And so one of the things that we're looking at is to see community garden. The idea is that it's in your community, so whether it be we have 3 different sites, one on the west side, one on the south, one on the north, to be classical, or more neighborhood-centered ones. One of the probably easiest ways to do it is when you identify a new development. Let's say we expand south of town by a little bit. To identify a 2-acre area that you're going to have as a community garden place, something that people in that area can easily access and grow. I just want to talk about what some of the benefits are.
Sure.
People aren't always familiar there. Why would they want to do a community garden, right? There's a large portion of people that don't have the opportunity to grow food at their home or at their unit, right? We have a large renter base in the community. A lot of people who value trees, and so they have a shaded out yard and they can't grow. So it provides people an opportunity to engage in healthy activity, growing healthy produce, gives kids an opportunity to learn about where their food comes from, how do you grow, how do you care for that. Police departments across the country believe that it is a valuable asset to crime prevention. People get out of their homes, they get to meet each other, they engage in fun, healthy activities that can serve similar to a neighborhood watch. You have people that just get to know each other, and that's one of the main positives of that area. The other nice thing about our community gardens is they tend to be a source of fresh produce for our food pantries, which typically wouldn't have that type of food available otherwise. So.
Sure. All right, excellent. Water conservation and protection. Tell us what is going on there.
Sure, I can talk really quick about those. The city has implemented a pretty good leak detection program. So they think you have a leak at your unit, they send you out a notice right away. Not a lot of people are maybe monitoring their water usage. They don't get a bill every 3 months, and so you have a spike in your usage. The city's going to let you know right away. Check for leaks. Also, they're going to be issuing a brochure in the upcoming months notifying people of some simple steps that you can take to save water. Reduce your water bill by installing a low-flow toilet or something like that. Any number of simple ways that people can reduce their water usage, and that's a valuable part of any sort of municipal water management or environmental management plan is how are you going to protect and save your water. Regarding the water quality, I mean, we're always working on different areas. The state DNR permit that they have for their stormwater management requires them to provide resident education on steps that they can take to protect the water quality of the area. We're going to be working on a brochure with that, with the Public Works Department. They are trying to incorporate different projects into, you know, they're doing their water basins that they're implementing as part of the permit. But there's things that we're trying to work towards to implement as well. And these are little things. They add up though, and communities across the country are doing them. Rain barrel programs or rain garden programs, a demonstration site at City Hall or something like that. Expansion of trees, which if we get a chance to talk to, I mean, the city's doing great with their new Take Root program. Yep. But trees have a significant effect on reducing stormwater runoff, absorbing rain that has fallen, preventing storm runoff with the roots keep the dirt and the grass in place, so you don't have the runoff of that into the lakes and whatnot. It's probably the extent of what we're looking at for water quality at the time.
In the last minute or so that we have left here, I was noticing on your website that the City of Green Bay is hiring a sustainability coordinator. Is that something that you would like to see us sort of aspire to here in the City of Oshkosh too, Justin?
Sure. Take a look at kind of the role that our board, the Sustainability Board, takes in the city, and it would seem as though, and I don't want to speak badly, I think we are treated fairly well. The city manager and certain departments are receptive. However, I don't know if sustainability is truly taken seriously as maybe an important priority in municipal affairs. The idea that if we have a project that we're going to move forward on that's maybe a high cost project, you get the feeling sometimes that it's the idea that it's too high cost to consider sustainability measures. Or there's a development taking place. Would it make sense to have the Sustainability Board review it and give an opinion on, you know, are there ways that you could make this more energy efficient, or is there a way that you could better manage your stormwater runoff on site? And that's not happening right now. I think when you put money behind your word and you actually take that step to hire somebody, that's a good step forward. We have a large community, we have a lot of valuable natural resources. That would not be a bad idea. And again, I don't want to say that the city is not receptive at all, because I think that the current status, they're very responsive. I'm impressed with how quickly they respond to questions and provide information. But is the input of sustainability really valued? I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay. Well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you for being here and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. You are, for such a young guy, you are one of the most well-spoken guests that we have had on this show. And I just want to thank you for everything that you do. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. And my voice held out, so hey, that's a good thing too. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.
When we get to the
Thank you.